In the blazing deserts of the ancient Near East, where kings were gods to their people and prophets wielded words like swords, there rose a woman whose name would echo across centuries as a warning and a curse. Jezebel, queen of Israel, priestess of Baal, enemy of prophets, and architect of her own spectacular downfall. But before she became a name synonymous with wickedness, Jezebel was just a daughter. A princess of Tyre, a powerful Phoenician city-state perched along the Mediterranean coast. Her father, King Ethbal, was no ordinary king. He was a priest king, a man who ruled both the palace and the temple. Under his command, Tyre had flourished thanks to its strong navy, its thriving trade in purple dye and cedar wood, and its unswerving devotion to Baal, the storm god. From the moment Jezebel was born, she was steeped in power, privilege, and prophecy. She grew up walking marble halls and temple courtyards, watching sacrifices offered to gods older than Israel itself. She learned politics at her father's side, understanding that true power wasn't just claimed, it was crafted, nurtured, and ruthlessly defended. So when the marriage proposal came from King Ahab of Israel, Jezebel didn't hesitate. A political alliance between Tyre and Israel meant riches, security, and influence. But for Jezebel, it meant something even more potent, the opportunity to spread the worship of Baal across a foreign land. At first, the Israelites greeted her arrival with curiosity. She came to Samaria dressed in silks that shimmered like the sea, wearing jewelry crafted by the finest Phoenician goldsmiths. Ahab, already a weak-willed king, fell hopelessly under her spell. Before long, he built a temple to Baal right in the capital. An altar gleamed under the desert sun, and prophets of Baal began walking the streets where Yahweh's name had once been revered. But Jezebel wasn't just satisfied with religious tolerance. No, she wanted domination. She began a brutal campaign to erase Yahweh worship from Israel altogether. Prophets loyal to Yahweh were hunted down like animals. Some were slaughtered. Others went into hiding, living in caves sustained only by bread and water smuggled to them by sympathizers. Jezebel, once the exotic foreign queen, had transformed into a ruthless enforcer. It was during these dark days that a man named Elijah emerged from the wilderness. Elijah was everything Jezebel hated. Prophet of Yahweh, a thorn in her side, a man who refused to be bought, bullied, or broken. The first time Elijah confronted Ahab, he declared a drought by the authority of Yahweh, and then vanished. Months turned into years. The rivers dried up, the crops withered, and famine gripped the land. Jezebel's gods seemed powerless. And yet, Jezebel dug in her heels, blaming Elijah and his Yahweh for the suffering. When Elijah finally returned, he issued a challenge that would become the stuff of legend. A contest between Baal and Yahweh on Mount Carmel. On one side, 450 prophets of Baal, chanting and slashing themselves with knives. On the other, a single man, Elijah, standing before a simple altar. The rules were clear. Whichever god answered with fire from heaven would be declared the true God. The prophets of Baal cried out from morning till night, their voices hoarse, their bodies bleeding, but no fire fell. Then Elijah stepped forward. With calm defiance, he drenched his altar with water 3 times, until the trench around it overflowed. Then he prayed. In an instant, fire roared from the heavens, consuming the offering, the stones, the water, everything. The people fell on their faces, crying, "The Lord, He is God!" Elijah seized the moment, leading the people to slaughter the prophets of Baal at the brook of Kishon. It was a devastating blow to Jezebel's power. But Elijah made a fatal mistake. He didn't kill Jezebel herself. When news of the massacre reached Jezebel, her rage knew no bounds. She sent a message to Elijah. "May the gods deal with me, be it ever so severely, if by this time tomorrow I do not make your life like that of one of them." Elijah, the fearless prophet who had faced down armies and kings, fled for his life. But Jezebel's grip on Israel was slipping. The drought ended. Yahweh's prophets emerged from hiding. And yet Jezebel plodded on, weaving her web tighter around the throne. When King Ahab set his sights on a vineyard belonging to a man named Naboth, it was Jezebel who orchestrated the scheme to seize it. She forged letters in Ahab's name, arranged for false witnesses to accuse Naboth of blasphemy, and had him stoned to death. The vineyard passed into Ahab's hands, but the blood cried out from the ground. Elijah confronted Ahab once again, prophesying doom. Dogs will lick your blood where they licked Naboth's, and Jezebel, the dogs will devour her body by the walls of Jezreel. For a time, it seemed like a distant threat. Jezebel continued to reign, draped in luxury, surrounded by her eunuchs and priests. But judgment, once declared, is patient. It waits. The tide turned when Ahab was killed in battle, his blood washed from his chariot at the pool of Samaria, the dogs lapping it up, just as Elijah had said. Jezebel's son, Ahaziah, then Jehoram, ascended to the throne, but neither had the strength or charisma of their mother. Meanwhile, a new player entered the scene, Jehu, a military commander with ambition as sharp as a sword. Elisha, Elijah's successor, secretly anointed Jehu as king and charged him with executing divine judgment on Ahab's house and Jezebel. Jehu didn't waste time. With his chariots thundering across the desert, he stormed Jezreel. When Jezebel heard Jehu was coming, she did something strange and telling. She painted her eyes, adorned her hair, and positioned herself at a window overlooking the gate. Was it vanity? Defiance? Or a final act of royal dignity? As Jehu entered the city, she called down mockingly, "Have you come in peace, you Zimri, murderer of your master?" It was a deliberate provocation. Zimri was a usurper who had killed his king and ruled for only 7 days before killing himself. Jehu looked up, unamused, and called out to the palace servants, "Who is on my side?" 2 or 3 eunuchs peered out from the window. Jehu barked, "Throw her down." Without hesitation, they grabbed the queen and hurled her from the window. She hit the ground with a sickening thud, her blood splattering the wall and the horses. Jehu drove his chariot over her body, crushing what was left. Later, when he ordered her to be buried, because after all, she was a king's daughter, the servants returned with a grim report. Only her skull, her feet, and the palms of her hands remained. The dogs had eaten the rest, just as Elijah had foretold. The name Jezebel would forever be associated with treachery, idolatry, and ruthless ambition. She became a byword for evil in the biblical tradition, a cautionary tale about the corrupting influence of power and pride. But was Jezebel truly a villain? Or was she a woman fighting for her gods, her people, and her place in a foreign land? Some historians argue that Jezebel was a victim of political propaganda, demonized by her enemies. Still, Jezebel's legacy is undeniable. Her life was a storm, fierce, relentless, and destructive. She had battled prophets and kings, bent the will of a nation, and left a trail of blood in her wake. But in the end, no amount of power, paint, or pride could shield her from the judgment she had unleashed. Jezebel rose high, but when she fell hard, leaving nothing behind but shattered bones, a cursed name, and a warning that echoed through the ruins of Jezreel. Pride comes before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall.